Alright, let's go ahead and continue modeling. So let's go ahead and model several pieces from this ornament. Let's just go ahead and start with a plane. Alright. So let's go ahead and begin with this section right over here. And let's go ahead and set up symmetry right away. Alright, so we will keep it flat, and then once we're ready, we'll keep the geometry flat, but we'll set up the topology for vertical. So basically, eventually, I want to go ahead and raise the topology, the geometry up, to match the curvature. But I won't do it in the first phase, but I still want to go ahead and set up the topology to be able to do it later. So I want to go ahead and set up some extra geometry right here. So in the first phase as I'm modeling, I want to go ahead and keep everything flat. But I want to set up this topology so that later I can go ahead and give it some thickness like so. And it might also be a good idea just to establish my curvature here. Alright, so let's go ahead and extrude this out. I want the topology here to loop around here, so what I can do here is move it out here. Okay, I can go ahead and kind of reroute the topology later, because you see right now, because of the topology, this will remain sharp, and I want it to be smooth. So what I'll do here is just go ahead and select this, select these edges, and let me go ahead and move this a little bit to the left. Select these edges and extrude. There we go. Alright, so now that I've established the basic topology here, we've got a pretty nice shape here. Now I can go ahead and start giving some z value to this, changing the z position, some of the vertices. So analyzing the mesh, let's see. There are still a few kind of details we can add here, like first I will just go ahead and select all the surrounding geometry, all the surrounding edges, And now just go ahead and just scale it down, extrude it down. There we go. Let me go ahead and actually make a clone of this. Alright, there we go. So I just need to create a little bit of extra beveling here. So I'll go ahead and select this and just don't forget about the hinge from edge feature. So if I go ahead and bevel, I'll get this. It's not too bad. But I can also use the hinge from edge tool, which will do something similar, except if I go ahead and pick this hinge right here, it will do this, which will give me this result right here. And I can go ahead and do the same for this. Hinge from edge, and I'll go ahead and maybe pick this one. There we go. So there we go. Although what I can do to improve it slightly is insert a loop through here. Alright, repeat the operation. There we go. Now I've got a pretty nice, interesting result. So this is a nice way of getting that kind of result. In fact, alright, and I can do the same for the other parts of the mesh as well. So I can go ahead and select that, for example. Let me go ahead and move these to the left a little bit. Alright, hinge from edge. Don't forget to change your actual hinge. Maybe decrease the angle. There we go. Right, now it's time for me to go ahead and create some elevation here in the middle. So because I've set up the topology previously, it's now a simple matter of just moving some polygons up. So now I want there to be a little effect here, so I'll go ahead and just kind of move this up a little bit. So it makes it look a lot less boring now. Alright, and I can go ahead and do the same Let me go ahead and create a little extrusion detail here. Alright, once again. I think I may need to go ahead and just change this topology a little bit. There we go. Now I think there may be a little bit of elevation here. So what I can do is simply select these vertices, FFD, and I can go ahead and just move the center control points up. There we go. Get a nice little bit of elevation there. So this is after, this is before. And you can even do the same for the upper section. Don't forget to make your selection first. Alright, make sure you got all the vertices selected, FFD. And let's go ahead and move the center up. Alright, there we go. I do want to make a few small adjustments. I don't quite like the way this part here looks, so let me go ahead and just bring it back down. Right. And I can also go ahead and just kind of move this geometry up as well, because I think it's a little bit too far down. There we go. Alright, and at this point I can go ahead and simply collapse it. Alright. So we've got a lot of possibilities with this detail as well. As always, you can go ahead and FFD to quickly change its shape around. Get a lot more interesting results. And you can FFD with Turbo Smooth on the bottom. So first apply Turbo Smooth to get some more geometry, establish your curvature, and then it's a good idea to FFD then, after you have some more geometry to work with. And keep in mind that if you want more fine control, you can go ahead and add an FFD box and change the number of points. So now we have a lot more control points to work with to get more accurate control. Alright, so that's just a basic way of getting more out of your ornamental details. Alright, let's go ahead and model these leaves up here as well. So for these leaves, we don't need to model every single one. All we have to do, as you can see, these leaves are just symmetrified right here, and this one is just the same as this, except a little bit larger. Well, actually taking a second look, the center leaf actually is a little bit different. Whereas this leaf simply goes up here and curls around here, this leaf actually just kind of goes down here. So we can actually take one of these leaves and modify it to be more like this. So what I'm saying is we don't have to model every single leaf from scratch. So let's go ahead and start with this one, for example. And I will just go ahead and start with one of these polygons. I'll just go ahead and extrude here and simply detach it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and simply copy these modifiers and go ahead and start here, making sure this is planar X, and add 0. Alright, and I'll simply go ahead and begin extruding some edges. Alright, so at this point what I can do is I'll select all my polygons, hold shift, convert that to edge, and then I'll go ahead and perform an extrude operation so I can get some nice edges going all the way around. And since I have these edges here, let me go ahead and move them a little bit further apart. I can go ahead and set this up as well. Alright. Now what I have to do is create this kind of shape here. First what I'll do is go ahead and extrude downwards. And I'll go ahead and create this shape right here. So I need to go ahead and kind of reroute my topology a little bit. Right, so basically this geometry along here needs to be a little bit higher. There we go. As you can see, once you set up the proper topology, it becomes just a simple matter of just kind of adjusting the Z position to get the desired effect. There we go. I'm just making sure that I have some nice curvature here and that it's not too sharp. So I may have to just kind of move these edges and vertices apart from each other a little bit. Alright. So it looks like we have a pretty nice transition here. we can go ahead and emphasize it a little bit more. There we go. And we've got a pretty nice result here. Now this sleeve does have a lot of details here. Usually I'll just go ahead and do this with sculpting because this can get very tedious to do in 3ds Max. So this is just something you can do by sculpting a little bit, just a little bit of sculpting here. All right, and I also want to go ahead and take this. I'll just go ahead and select the element and go ahead and clone it. Right over here. Okay, so what we need to do is actually, I'll go ahead and select this and I'll go ahead and use mirror. There we go. So now I've gone and mirrored it. And carefully position it. Right, I may have to go ahead and just kind of scale it a little bit. May not be a perfect fit. Alright, now I can go ahead and select this and bridge them together. There we go. As you can see, we have a nice curve happening here. So I want to go ahead and emphasize that just by selecting this and bringing it down a little bit. So you can feel free just to kind of emphasize the details. Alright, now before I model in the center detail, I want to go ahead and finish this up here. The reason is the center detail is asymmetrical, so it will be much harder to model symmetry once we start working on it. So I need to go ahead and finish up this area. So I will simply go ahead and extrude this here. I want to make sure that it rests comfortably underneath this piece. So I'll just go ahead and make sure that it's not clipping through too much. It will be resting underneath this piece. Now let's see what's happening here. Okay, so I need to also go ahead and bridge these two edges. There we are. So now I'll go ahead. And one more thing is that it looks like the edges here are raised a little bit higher. So we can try and replicate that effect as well. Just by selecting them and moving them up. There we go. I'll go ahead and move these later once I've modeled the center detail. Alright, so for the center detail, I'll go ahead and just have symmetry off. Just gonna double check this one more time. And I'll actually go ahead and just bring this lower. Alright, now I'll go ahead and put a poly on top And I'll go ahead and select this detail. Make sure I have all the right polygons selected, and I'll just go ahead and hold Shift and clone it as an element and move it, rotate into position. Maybe scale it a little bit. Alright, now we may have to go ahead and rotate it a little bit. And it might be a good idea to have show end result on as you're doing this, so you can see what the final product will be. Alright, now I just need to go ahead and rotate this piece to better match the reference. First I can go ahead and adjust this a little bit. So let's go ahead and rotate it. Actually, let me see. So one thing I can do actually is select this and let me go ahead and detach it as an element, and then I'll go ahead and mirror this as well. There we go. Rotate that into its position here. And now just select the edges and bridge. So that may be a more convenient method if you like. Right, just need to fix the rotation of some of these pieces and we're good to go. Alright, so I want to go ahead and have a smoother transition here. So I'll just go ahead and maybe raise this up a little bit, maybe raise this one up a little bit, just to make the transition a lot smoother. And I can go ahead and select this and apply FFD. There we go. Before and after. So there we go. FFD is very good for gradual adjustment. Alright, all that's left to do now is just to bridge a few of these edges together. You can use snap to accurately extrude the edge. Bridge these edges. Alright, there we go. Now we have all quads. Alright, so thank you for watching and take care.